good morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on wherever you are in the world. I'm so glad to have you all with us for our 14th Community Builders virtual event. My name is Johanna Kanda, and I'm the Strategic Engagement Consultant at Illuminate. This event is part of our monthly Creating Connection event series that's part of our Community Builders Network. This network is made up of communities of people who work within the education, enterprise, and also the membership community space. As you can see on the screen, our next event for Creating Connection will be on 23rd of June. So right after today's webinar, make sure you register to secure your spot. Now, everyone here is also invited to join as members of the Community Builders Network. And by joining, you'll be able to receive our monthly newsletter and also advanced event invitations. And you'll be receiving more information in an email following the event. So just to let you know a little bit about Illuminate, we're a company that works with various institutions around the world providing community technologies through a provision of a community platform called Illuminate. And I would like to show you a short video to give you a little bit more of a taste of what Illuminate is all about, especially for those who haven't met us just yet. And now, for the most important part, I would like to invite Josh to come on stage with me. We have such an excellent webinar lined up for you today. And again, I would love to just thank our speaker, Josh Domitrovich, for joining us today. Josh is a veteran of the United States Air Force, and he currently serves as the director of the Center for Career and Professional Development at Clarion University of Pennsylvania. In his role, he manages an office of 4 professionals and 6 students, and he specializes in mentoring first destination outcomes and retention efforts. He's also a graduate of Clarion University, holding a degree in human resource management and a master's degree in business administration, and is currently pursuing a doctorate of education administration and leadership at Indiana University of Pennsylvania. Josh's work has been featured in numerous regional and national articles, to include the February 2020 edition of the NACE Journal, and he has presented his work at state, regional, and national conferences. And in this session, Josh will share with you the key to how Clarion University, which is an institution with less than 5,000 students, researched, developed, and institutionalized a high-impact student-to-alumni mentoring program with some really, really impressive results. So I'm really excited for everyone to meet Josh today and for Josh to share his experience with you all. So without further ado, let's find out how they did it.
Thanks, Johanna. Before we begin, I'd love to give a context. So there's a short video that we want to play to kind of set the stage of what is our mentoring program all about. So once we finish the video, then we'll begin the presentation.
I'm looking for someone who I can share candlelit dinners with, someone who enjoys watching sports, someone who, is like compatible to me.
Yeah, good luck finding that. What else are you looking for? Long walks in the wilderness, camping trips, every day a new adventure to experience?
No, that's you, geoscience major.
Oh, okay, comm major. I forgot. All you guys like are sports and, apparently candlelit dinners. Do you even know what it is you're filling out anyway?
Obviously, it's CU Mentor. You fill out an application online, and if you love rocks, they'll match you up with someone else who loves rocks.
No, not exactly. They match your profile up with a professional in your field. The person on the other end helps you with all your college and job-related questions, like what they do at their work, what your resume should look like, and tips for interviewing. Basically, they help you make the transition from college to career. It's not someone for you to go on dates with and talk about sports. Hey, I got a match.
Sounds like you're going to have some great conversations about rocks.
He isn't just going to talk about rocks.
Yes! I got a mentee. I can't wait to teach him about all my foundational knowledge on geoscience. And talk about rocks!
Hopefully you found that pretty funny and entertaining and enjoyable. So very simply, what our program does is we match students with alumni. We like to help them take that transition from college to career. And one of the things that we're going to talk about today is how we did that. I'm going to share some context with you about what made our program unique and ultimately where you can actually utilize components of our program for your own mentor program if that's something you're thinking about creating. So one of the secret ingredients that we're going to present on today and talk about is gamification. And I'll explain what that is as we go through the presentation. So I think it's important to begin with a little objective. So these are the things that I hope you can all walk away with today, understanding a little bit more about key components of mentoring, how to design and implement a program at your institution, regardless of your size or wherever you fall within the organizational structure, or maybe you're in industry. Regardless of where, there are key things that should be occurring. I'm going to share with you what I found through my journey of creating a mentor program. And then also examine those creative and strategic approaches. For us, that was gamification, and that helped us significantly increase our student engagement. So for the sake of today's conversation, there are really two key life cycles we're going to talk about. The first is the program life cycle, and then the other is the student life cycle. When we think about the program life cycle, I'm going to give you an inside look of the research that I've done, the findings that presented themselves through the research, and then ultimately how our program was developed and is being assessed. But then I'm going to end the presentation from a student perspective and how this mentor program at Clarion has evolved into something beyond just connecting students with alumni. It has impacted our first destination outcomes. It's used as a retention model. And it also supports our alumni relations and engagement officers in our foundation to attract young professionals, seasoned professionals, to come back and support the institution in a variety of ways that aren't just monetary. So really excited to dig in, kind of peel back the layers of the onion and present to you what we've done at Clarion. So I hope you can sit back and enjoy what's about to be presented to you. Before we begin, though, I want to be able to provide an institutional context. I find these are extremely helpful so you can see who we are and ultimately how you might relate to this type of institution, or maybe you're a completely different institution. But regardless of where you are, the things I'm going to talk about today are here to help you and designed to help you build your own program or enhance your own program at your institution. So, as Johanna mentioned, we're Clarion University of Pennsylvania. We're a rural institution in the United States, about 2 hours northeast of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. From a population perspective of our students, about 5,000 undergraduate and graduate students, a variety of academic programs from associate's degree to a doctorate degree in nursing. Our programs and our institution attracts a very unique population of students. We're considered a part of the Pennsylvania State System of Higher Education, which is a collection of 14 institutions that are open access institutions, meaning that we're here to support an education to any student, regardless of your background, GPA, whatever it might be. So based off of that mission, we do attract a large number of first-generation students who are the first in their family to attend college, and then low-income learners. So that type of population requires a certain amount of nurturing and support through that collegiate process. So it's something to take into consideration as well whenever you're listening to the presentation today. Interestingly, most of our students remain in the state of Pennsylvania. So a high majority of them build on the economy within Pennsylvania, and that's something we're extremely proud about. From an office perspective, if we zoom in a little bit, I have a direct report to the provost, so we're housed in academic affairs. We've already established the type of reporting structure within. There are 3 additional success coaches and administrative assistant, and then our students vary, but right now we have about 6. We do not have any graduate assistants in our office. But we do operate under a liaison or career cluster model. This is very common if you start to think about we're aligned with specific programs, department, colleges, or schools. So for example, I am the liaison to the College of Business and Information Sciences. So I see and interact with all students within that area, and my counterparts in the office do very similar things in other areas like education, nursing, etc. So depending on what our schools are at the institution. And then we do have a specialization areas, as Johanna mentioned, first destination. I love first destination outcomes, as well as retention efforts. Our office, we have a budget of about $15,000, which isn't anything too substantial whenever you think about how do you build programs and do all these unique and innovative things in this time where enrollment's decreasing for us in the state of Pennsylvania, so we have to do something different. And those are going to be things we're going to talk about today. Specifically about our mentoring program to kind of set the stage to where we begin. My very first conversation I had with our former director, who has recently retired when I was hired 6 years ago, was where do we start our program? How much money are we going to have to support this type of initiative? What research have you all done? And what are you ultimately looking for? He leaned back in his chair and he simply said, we have no money for you, and we really don't have a direction. We just need you to create a mentoring program. So a little bit surprised, I got out of the office and I started thinking, okay, I'm motivated to do this. So let's get this started. So the journey that I'm going to walk you through today is the development of that program and how we started from no software, build our own software, and then ultimately we go through the process of developing strategic partnerships to have a software. I think it's important to note we did all of this with no budget, no additional money. So being creative and innovative is something that we pride ourselves on because it has to happen in our current environment. We did pilot the program originally with our College of Business, but now you're going to see it has grown into other areas. And then I am the single administrator who operates the program. When I started in my role, it was about 80% of my job responsibilities. But now as the program has evolved and become natural and organic, it has shifted a little bit to less, about 25% of my responsibilities. Okay, so that's the context. Now we're going to jump in. We're going to talk about the program life cycle, kind of dig into the first learning objective about our research and findings. So after that conversation that I shared with you with my former director, I said I had to get started. The best way to do that was do the research. So I contacted 10 other colleges and universities across the country in the United States about their mentor program. I wanted to gain insight into how did they develop a program, who was using their program, and what we're learning. What did you learn through the process, right? Did you have any stumbling blocks that you could help me with so I don't have that difficulty as well? So from a summary of the program structure, most programs varied from informal, some people call it flash mentoring, to formalized partnerships, but very few were formalized at the university or institutional level. So for flash mentoring, what that means is it's short 30-day conversations or maybe a one-on-one, one-time conversation with an individual, where formalized programs tended to be longer in nature. Maybe it was a month, an academic year, something in the middle between those. Partnerships typically range from students the whole way to employers and everywhere in the middle. There really wasn't one set objective. They really set their program up based off of need at the institution, what they were looking to do. For us, we were focused on connecting students with alumni who also could sign up as employers in a way, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. Most programs had a single administrator, which is not uncommon, and many did have joint venture with alumni relations. And as you're going to find, there is no way our program would be as successful as it is if we didn't have the wonderful partnerships with our alumni engagement team, because they're on the other side being able to recruit alumni to be the mentors in our program. Software varied based off of what people utilize. Some didn't use software at all. Others utilized a career management system that they already had in place. Some individuals like myself that you're going to hear, we started manually matching in Excel. But there are countless mentoring programs out there. Illuminate provides a great service. I had a wonderful demo with them a couple days ago. It was just fascinating and really impressive and intuitive. So if that is something that you're able to do, the software obviously helps with scalability of a program, and that's something that we're going to talk about today as well. So student utilization. So what I was really looking for to try to advocate for our program was how many students at your institution are utilizing your particular program. So in the research, I really couldn't find what a typical student utilization rate was. So I did the numerical calculation my own by contacting these organizations and colleges and universities to figure out how many students are typically engaging. And that would range from the whole way from 30 to 800 students. And then what I did was took that and divided it by how many students, learners were at your institution that had the opportunity or access to your program. What I found through my research was the typical student utilization rate of mentor programs varied between 10 and 15%. So that was the benchmark that I set to say, how can we beat 10 to 15% and make our program something special? And at the end of the presentation, towards the end, I'm going to share with you what our utilization rate was. So I think that's a good benchmark to follow. However, the major takeaway that I found through the research of other colleges and universities was no one was formally or intentionally preparing their students to be mentored. The key words there are formally or intentionally. So what we did was try to fill a niche in the market by utilizing a brand new, unique technique called gamification. So let me quickly explain to you what gamification is to kind of give you a definition. Gamification is the use of game design elements in non-game-like contexts. So for example, you may play a game on your phone, maybe it's an app where you earn 1, 2, 3 stars, you're earning certain currency, maybe you get a badge or a certification based off a certain level of competency. Taking those game-like elements like a badge and applying that in something like career services is said to increase motivation of individuals. So what we were attempting to do was utilize the concept of gamification, specifically digital badging, which I'm going to show you here on the next few slides, and use that as an extrinsic reward to motivate students to use our services. Because we are an optional service at Clarion University, students are not required to use us, but we firmly believe career development is a central component of a student's journey and alumni journey. So it's important for us that our engagement are increasing, and if we could provide a badge to dangle a carrot in front of somebody to say, come engage with us, we knew we would teach them the rest of the way. So that was the journey that we started on. What I'm about to present to you, each of these next few slides and the component of the Return on Education initiative that you're looking at, everything happened at the same time. Although I was here to create a mentoring program, we quickly realized that the 4, 5, 6 years at that a student was at our institution, we were really hitting them the freshman year and the senior year. We weren't doing things intentionally in the middle. And based off of retention numbers, we saw, it's called the sophomore slump. We were losing sophomore, second year students through the process. So what we did was we created a few different components. As you'll see here, this is a simple 4-year plan that we've embedded within our College of Business, which is now called the Return on Education Initiative. What we have done is we've created a culture shift at Clarion where an optional service like career development is now embedded inside of the curriculum with key faculty and classes. So over this 4 years that a student engages at our institution, we, career development, are embedded in required classes that every College of Business student has to take. So as you can see on the screen, there are different classes and different activities that they're participating in that are often worth points as part of the grade. What you see the sophomore year is we've intentionally created a badging process where students have to participate in a certain number of programs and services, which I'm going to share with you, before they can have access to our mentor program, which typically happens the junior, senior year. That is where we become very unique, and we were formal and intentional in preparing our students to be mentored. Students cannot be connected with a mentor until they have proven they have the competencies and skills and are able to have the proper conversations with our mentors. And the badge is a symbol that they are ready to participate in that program. So let's take a snapshot and a deeper look inside of that. Before we get there, I think it's important to note that we do abide by the National Association of Colleges and Employers, which is NACE. They do have a set of 8 career readiness competencies. Unfortunately, this slide is out of date because the new NACE competencies have currently been revised at the end of April. So we will be updating this particular handout in our office, but it gives you a good sense. It's a good framework to tell you these skills and competencies are what students are learning as part of our CU professional platform. So let's take a look at that. So in order for students to be mentored, they have to earn this badge and participate in our services. So regardless of how the student chooses to learn, whether that's an individual appointment, our online virtual series, or 2 in-person large-scale events, what you see on the right side of the screen are the ways a student can engage. There are 5 different categories, and students have to accomplish one topic within each of those 5 categories. Once a student has successfully accomplished that, they then earn the badge, which allows them access into our mentor program. So this is the component of gamification. This is the uniqueness that we have added to say, students weren't really engaging with us before, or we weren't pleased with the number of students engaging with us prior to our badging. But I'm going to share some statistics with you so you can see how gamification has positively impacted and it really has grown our engagement within our office across multiple programs, departments, majors. I do think it's also worth noting that our badging process has evolved over the years. On the left side of the screen, you're going to see a bronze, silver, and gold. That was our original kind of pilot of our program. What we quickly found was tracking badging and how we do that can be a challenge. And in the top right of the screen, you now see our new and updated 1 digital badge that really replaced the 3 original badges. We did a lot of data analysis and feedback of why we went from 3 to 1. Largely, that was based off of students were either doing the bronze or the gold. They really weren't doing anything in the middle. And we thought we could refine the process of how students engage with us to make it simplified. And that's really what our new badge does. We do have a badge for our mentor program, which is the second down on the right. And then also our Living Learning community offers a digital badge called Discover You whenever they participate in career exploration type activities. But what you see in the center of the screen is actually, it's a funny story. This is our CU Pro Platinum badge. After the year or 2 of our first iterations of our badging, and we found it successful, one week we had a student come in our office and say, I've earned the digital badge, the CU Pro badge. Do you have another badge? Is there something like a platinum badge that I could learn and continue to grow from? And we kind of looked at each other and we said, hey, unfortunately not, but maybe that's a good idea. We'll explore that. Student left and we thought, that was weird. 2 weeks later, a different student came in and said the exact same thing. This time we looked at each other and said, okay, we need to do something about it if the students are looking for something more. So what you see at the center of the screen is our CU Professional Platinum badge. What happens here is there are a variety of activities on those colored tiles at the bottom of that image where students can choose how they want to participate. What matters is students can pick and choose how they want to, as long as they earn at least 10 points. And you see each activity essentially equates to a certain amount of hours that we've devised on the back end of career development. So for every 10 points a student engages, that's equivalent to about 20 extra hours of career professional development. So what a student can do now is be able to leverage that in a conversation with an employer for a particular job to say, here are the things that I've done to enhance my career readiness. When we issue our badges in our program, there's something called the anatomy of the badge. Imagine you dissecting the platinum badge and looking inside of it. There's a description of what the student has to accomplish in order to achieve the badge, amount of hours, specific skills, and ultimately what that means for them and who it was issued by as an accredited institution like Clarion. So what students can do is they can leverage that. They can market that on LinkedIn, on their resume, or through other portfolio platforms that they might use. So this has been a very unique and creative way to try to increase student engagement and really help students understand that career development is that journey beyond the 4 years that they're at the institution. But the hope is that this type of extrinsic reward motivates them to think about career development and to be intrinsically motivated to continue to develop themselves through their career journey. So now let's transition to the CU Mentor program. So what I've presented so far is there's this 4-year plan. We're preparing students their sophomore year through CU Professional. They've earned the badge. Now they're invited to participate in our mentor program called CU Mentor, which typically happens their junior and or senior year. So what you see on the left side of the screen is a simple infographic that we've created based off of the assessment information and outcomes. This is a few years old, so a lot of the information is outdated, but it does give you a really neat perspective of what type of conversations are had, forms of contact, and then what type of experience we have and where we ultimately reach across the United States. So from a structural standpoint, I think it's important to lay out a few components of what's typically in a program and then talk a little bit about what ours looks like. We started the program by developing program goals and objectives. So we knew ultimately we wanted to increase students' confidence, knowledge, and awareness of professional experiences that relate to what they wanted to do, what their success was. So those were really the 3 core objectives we had in our program: confidence, knowledge, and growth in that area. So we knew that was the end product. We reverse engineered it to say, how do we get them there? How do we build a program that ensures that they're gaining knowledge, having confidence, and ultimately growing and learning through this process? So those were the assessments that we created at the end. We needed to start by ensuring that they were prepared to have those conversations and were confident enough and knowledgeable enough so they could grow in the program, which was the creation of CU Professional in the utilization of gamification techniques. Once the student has accepted that they want to participate in our mentor program, there's a process that they can go through of how they want to participate. So they can choose to participate informally, flash mentoring, or formally. Informal typically happens, they have the partnership for about 30 days, and then the partnership will recycle itself, and then they can go back into the pool of individuals and have a conversation. That's typically limited to resume reviews and maybe a mock interview or some networking conversations. Or they go through a formalized program, which is the whole entire academic year. Our mentor program is a rolling admission, so students can join at any time throughout the college year, or the college life cycle of the academic year. But typically, all partnerships have an end date of May when the academic year ends for tracking purposes. But if students are interested in having continued conversations, they can do that. We just continue the partnership, and we assess that through our end of the year assessment and outcome survey. There is an application process that students will go through. So the badge is a component of that. Essentially what we do is we've created our own algorithm where students are telling me, here's what I want in the mentor from the mentor. And the mentor is saying, here is what I have confidence in being able to speak with the student and help them along the journey. And then what we do is we marry those two things together in our algorithm to say, here's the best possible match for you based off of what you're looking for. Before a match is made, we do have a requirement that every student has to meet with the career coach they're assigned to, just to make sure that they understand what they're about to enter into and to ensure that they know how to have proper conversations and what they're even going to talk about. A lot of the research when I started, what I learned from those 10 other universities was students weren't able to have conversations appropriately, or they didn't know how to have them appropriately. And sometimes that ruined the alumni relationship on the other end. We were trying to avoid that at all costs because we wanted to support our alumni office and truly re-engage those alumni whenever they come back to the institution, which is why that requirement piece is in there. And we've actually seen more thoughtful conversations, more, I guess, the strength of the relationships between student and alumni are better because of those goals and objectives that they've created together. This typically, again, as I said, happens the junior, senior year, but we do take students their freshman and sophomore year. If they go through the preparatory program of CU Pro and they've justified that they can do it, we match them. We have a student in our office who was a freshman who wanted an internship between her freshman and sophomore year, super motivated, and she wanted to be connected with an individual, a mentor. So we got her connected. She got her goal of her internship in the summer. So we can absolutely have those adjustments and being flexible in our program. But typically, we see juniors and seniors engage. Participants, as I indicated, are matched between student and alum. Some of them indicate as employers too, because some of them post jobs in our career management system. We did find it extremely helpful to create recommended materials through our program. So for example, a lot of students would connect and come back to us and say, how do I have a conversation with this mentor? They're scary. I don't know how to draft an email to them. And as silly as that might sound, I get it, right? It is scary for you to ask for help when you're not even quite sure what you want to do with the rest of your life. So part of what we're trying to do with them is guide them through the process. So the way we guide them through that process is by creating a draft email that they can adjust and edit on their own. And on our website at the bottom of this screen, you'll see a variety of different recommended materials. Sometimes they're readings to help mentors figure out how can you be a better mentor. Sometimes it is an actual mentorship agreement that we've created. And that's a very formal way to say it's not a requirement, but we think there's value in the first relationship, the first conversation that you have with your mentor, that you're creating these goals and objectives, and you're talking about how often should we be communicating, what forms of communication will we use, will it be virtual, in person, over the phone? So it really helps paint a framework that everybody can understand and follow. So there are some recommended materials that I would encourage you to take a look at, and feel free to utilize and adapt if they'd be successful for your program as well. From an assessment standpoint, we do assess our program mid-year and end of the year. Our mid-year assessment is really just a touch point. How are things going? Is there a partnership? Is it what you expected? Do you think there may be somebody is out there better for you? Maybe this isn't working. And then our end of the year assessment is extremely formal. It's where we gauge our learning objectives and outcomes. We get the data like you see on the left side of the screen. We gather success stories and publish those on our webpage and on our alumni magazine. And ultimately, we want to know outcomes. So we connect them, for example, to first destination outcomes, which I'm going to share with you on the next slide. So that's a little bit about the structure of our program. An important piece to mention, though, is software. So we started the program with no software, and again, no budget. So I started a manual process. I created an algorithm to figure out what's the best way to match these individuals to have a really engaging and dynamic conversation. Well, that manual process took me to match 5 students. So we piloted the program with 5 students and 5 mentors. It took me about 3 or 4 hours to match 5 individuals. And I quickly realized that was not going to work based off of the criteria we set. So something had to change. So one day I got an email from our computer information science department chair, and one of their capstone courses, their students are required to create a software for hopefully a local organization. So that email was to say, do you know anybody who might need help from students? And I thought, I need help. So I want to be able to engage with them. So I met with the professor. We had a great conversation. I said, here's my need. I need a platform. I need an application that can automate my algorithm. Can they do it? So fast forward 3 years, every fall semester, I had a group of students that perfected and continued to enhance our algorithm the first year. They automated it and then created our own software or web application that was a true application for the participants. And then I was able to match individuals on the inside, which generated automatic emails and replies and other areas like that on the back end, the administrative side. But what we quickly realized was that wasn't going to be enough. But what it did do is it did decrease the time for matching by about 800%, and it saved us tens of thousands of dollars because we didn't have the budget to be able to go and purchase a software that we desperately need to be able to scale appropriately. But through strategic partnerships with our alumni engagement office, they have their own software that we've just tapped into. It's not perfect. We're definitely looking to try to advance that, and then products like Illuminate and Illuminate. But it's something that works for us right now. But I think the unique component of this is we did this on our own for 5 years. We built our own program, built our own software, and it worked. And it made beautiful outcomes on the other side, which I'm going to share with you. From a student engagement standpoint, I think this is important to mention too. We talked about student utilization rate earlier in the presentation. Our program originated and started with our business students, and then it has slowly adopted into communication psychology and other areas. So what we've done, and I'm going to share why this was the case under our lessons learned here in a little bit, but it's really important that you balance the scale and you rise both student engagement and alumni engagement together. Some programs, when I did the research, they would just go all in and they would try to recruit every student from every major and every alum. And those programs struggled to get off the ground because there wasn't continuity, consistency, and they really couldn't learn as they went. We've learned as we went, and we've reiterated for those specific programs. Students are different. Alumni are different in each of these majors and departments. So the program has to adjust slightly for those particular areas. But what we're excited about is that our student utilization rate is about 40%. So of the students who are able to engage in our programs, we have about 40% of them engaging, which is from our numbers about 3 or 4 times the typical benchmark that I set through my research. So we're extremely happy with that. And it's something we'll want to try to continue to maintain and or grow as our program becomes even more institutionalized across the university. So where I want to kind of finish the conversation with the mentor program before I move into kind of the outcomes is really this retention model, where what we quickly found in a way that I was able to pitch our program to the alumni engagement office, to admissions, to increase student engagement through the faculty, was that this retention model was truly a holistic life cycle. Think of it, this is the example that I would use, that I would encourage you that you can adapt for your own. This program is very attractive in the admissions cycle for prospective students and families. More attractive to parents and family members because they like to see the outcomes that I'm about to present to you. So if we can say, X, if your student engages, here's the likelihood that they'll have success on the other side, that's attractive to them. So it helps recruit students at the institution. We help engage students throughout our 4-year plan, our return on education initiative that I explained earlier. So we're keeping students engaged. We're having them learn the skills. We're getting them in our mentor program to hopefully learn what they need to do to get an internship, to get a job, to go to grad school, whatever their next step is. And then ultimately when they graduate, the hope is that those former mentees become the mentors, and it completes the cycle. We're at a point now where I don't have to recruit heavily for our alumni. It has self-sustained and it is organically doing itself. But you have to holistically look at it that way and try to work through that process to make sure our alumni team understands that, and that's an option for alumni to engage in, especially if they can't engage or provide monetarily. So that's the retention model. It's a unique way that we try to spin our program and show its attractiveness. So now I want to share with you some data. I love data, so I'm excited to share this information with you. So what I want to talk about first is the impact of our liaison career cluster model and that 4-year plan. When we implemented that model, what we've seen is that office engagement has increased by over 200%. And really, if we break that down into 3 programs that I've shared, we've saw a 750% increase in our business IS majors in our College of Business. To put that in perspective, I met with 63 students my very first year as a career coach. Now I consistently meet with 650 to 700 students on an annual basis every year. And that's solely because we're now ingrained and I have these relationships with faculty inside the curriculum that students see us as a necessary component of their life cycle at a college. But that doesn't happen in every program, and we struggle to get students in other programs because not all students are thinking about it. And if you remember the students we typically attract, there are those first generation students who don't know what they don't know. It's not their fault. We need to do a better job at trying to get to them, which is why that 4-year plan is so important to us. Similar in common psychology, these numbers look extremely skewed on one side, but to put things in perspective, like psychology, we had 1 student engage, and now we have about 88 to 89 students engage on a regular basis, and that's almost everybody in the program. So part of that is, again, those strategic partnerships really make a difference whenever we're trying to engage with those particular colleges and schools that we're looking to advance and help support their student success. We did see a huge shift in our faculty collaboration. What we always say is you have to find the unicorns in your particular university. And for us, we had to find the unicorn in our liaison area of those faculty. Typically, what we found were the younger, more non-tenured faculty at our institution, because we're a unionized environment. They were hungry. They wanted to prove themselves. Not to say tenured faculty didn't, because we did have partnerships there, but those were the people we could take these new innovative ideas to, and they helped us instill it in their culture, so our cultures bled together and became one. So we were extremely proud of this increase in faculty engagement. Now, we did do a case study for our Return on Education initiative, and I talked about these NACE competencies. What we've actually done is every service that we provide is associated with at least one competency. In our most recent study of our Management 120 class, which is our first year class, what we found was students reported that they had an increase in all 8 of the competencies that NACE suggests that are important. And that increase either happened on a 1-point or 2-point scale out of a 10 scale. So it's pretty significant that we know we can confidently say that our programs and services are ultimately impacting students through gamification, through our mentor program, through these little assignments like a resume or a mock interview. Now, when we think about gamification, though, we created this CU professional platform and utilized gamification, but what we found is that was a 60% contributor to increasing student participation. So at the end of some of our events, particularly, we have a huge event called Professional Development Day that happens in the fall semester. And we get about 100 to 150 students to participate in that. And we wanted to know why they were coming. What was motivating them? And they told us, 60% of them told us the badge was the reason they came. Not because the alumni were there, not because employers were there, not because they wanted to learn the content. They wanted the badge, which goes to show you that that extrinsic reward is healthy to a point. What we needed to understand, though, was we use badging as a smokescreen. We dangle that in front of the student to get them attracted to our programs, and then we teach them what they need to know, and we excite them about the journey of career development. That's the beautiful part of how we use gamification. It's a means to an end, and the end is giving them the knowledge, skills, and abilities to be successful on the other side. And now, whenever students engage, we know they re-engage on a 1.5 to 2.5 multiplier. They keep coming back. But badging got them to come to us at the first time. If that's what has to happen, we're going to continue to do that because it does attract a variety of different people. Now, what I'm most excited about is to present to you this last bullet point. So what we know, based off of our first destination outcome rates, which they follow the NACE guidelines, is that 90% of our mentor program participants have a positive outcome the day of graduation. And after 6 months of graduation, 100% of them have a positive outcome rate. So to be able to create a program that truly helps students get to their end destination, or maybe beginning destination of their career, depending on how you want to look at it, we're helping them achieve their own definition of success. And that's why we started this. We can confidently say that our program is teaching them the knowledge, giving them some confidence to grow in the areas that they want to grow in, and that we couldn't ask for anything more from that. So to kind of wrap up the presentation, I do think it's extremely valuable to teach you and share with you some of the lessons that we learned and maybe some of the mistakes that we made, So if you're thinking about developing or enhancing your own program, you don't make those mistakes like we did, or learning lessons like we did. So I started this presentation really focused on when we were talking about our mentor programs and objectives. You have to start with them first. Ask yourself why. What is the purpose of your program? What are you trying to achieve? And then everything you do, work backwards to make sure that you're trying to align that. For us, we're tracking knowledge, skills, competence, and growth on our end of the year assessment to connect that to our first destination outcomes. So everything we're trying to do is streamlined through the process to ensure that we're helping the students. And ultimately, we're creating a program that is meeting the objectives that it first set out to be. And those objectives are allowed to evolve. You just have to ask yourself, why? What's your purpose? Then, like you're doing today, you do some research. Contact people, do cold calls, listen to webinars, do demos, reach out to people like me to have a conversation, brainstorm with people. Some of the best people that I've ever met in the field of mentoring are because I've engaged with them through this conversation. Like a shout out to my friend Ashley Kruger, who in the University of Kansas, she reached out to ask a few questions, and then we presented at NACE together. So I'm open to these conversations because this is how we learn. This may be a secret for us, but it might not work for you. You might have to adapt it a little bit differently. So doing the research is so helpful. As you might be able to tell, I'm extremely passionate about this subject area. And I do think it is extremely important that you have the right person in place to make this successful. We have a joke in our office that we always say passion is differentiation. And we mean that. You know, putting me in a room to talk about mentoring, I'll do it all day. I'll do everything about it. I'll talk about gamification. I won't stop. It's because I love it and I'm passionate about it. So I wouldn't let this program fail. And to be honest with you, my original position was a 2-year temp position. I had to prove its worth so that they would turn me full time. I proved its worth in 6 months because I was that motivated that I wanted to be here. So it's those little things that will help you get through the ups and downs of the creation and reiteration of a program. Arguably, one of the most important things that I would offer you is that the faculty partnerships for optional services like career development create the culture shifts and changes that we have seen at our institution, and hopefully that you've seen by the data that I've presented to you today. You're finding those unicorns, learning from them, and ensuring that I'm not trying to make more work for the faculty. I'm actually trying to make your life easier here. But you just have to trust me that we can do this together, and we'll learn from one another and enhance it as we go. So that culture shift is huge to be able to do. And we have done it with our mentor program. That was the way we kind of started the conversation. I do think it's important to repackage your products with the consumer in mind. We know one size doesn't fit all whenever you're purchasing things or your attractiveness to things in the industry. Same concept would be for this. Whenever you market or have a conversation with a student, it's different than you would with a faculty member or an administrator or a parent or an alum. You have to know the audience and you have to shift your narrative a little bit to ensure that you're speaking their language. So what we do is we say we edutain people, that we're educating people and we're entertaining them at the same time. We like to have fun in our office. We like to try unique things to see if they'll work. So edutaining people and being adaptable and flexible has helped our office create badging, create a mentor program, create this 4-year plan, and repackage it with the consumer in mind to make it fun, or what we at least think is fun for the student to be able to engage. Arguably, right, software matters. Knowing what you want from a user perspective, the design of it, the intuitiveness for the actual user, and then having funding for that is ultra critical. As we share with you, we still go through our program with no additional funding, but we made it happen through strategic partnerships. So if you're feeling like you don't know where to begin, look at the people around you to build those strategic partnerships to make it happen. But what I will caution you is that scaling a program without a software can be extremely challenging. Even with a software it might be challenging, but it definitely decreases that load. But burnout is real. There were many times where I wasn't sure if we would be able to do this or get through that next hurdle. So taking care of the people who are part of this is really, really important. when you think about scale, kind of the balance of power that I was talking about earlier, if you have a weight like the weight of justice and you have weights on each side, you don't want to teeter-totter a weight. So you want to make sure that you are appropriately engaging and attracting students as you're engaging alumni. What we found is if you get too many alumni, not enough students, you disengage those alumni and they won't come back. Reverse, if you engage too many students and there aren't enough people or they're not being connected with people they want to have the conversations with, you disengage the student. So bringing it up together is what's important. What some of those institutions that I was talking about earlier, they jumped right in. That's where they lost their program, is because they were all over the place. We systematically started with one college, one program, and then we morphed that as we knew we could get the alumni buy-in, and then we slowly turned to other programs. So my encouragement would be you start small, you learn, you reiterate, and you change and you adapt to ensure that you don't burn out, that the scale rises together, and that you actually can create a program that's sustainable on its own. So a really, really important component. So those things go hand in hand. So at this particular time, we'll transition to the Q&A. Just want to mention here, my contact information's here. If you have any questions, you want to have a conversation, feel free to email me, connect with me on LinkedIn, visit our website, and then there is an opportunity for the next Community Builders Roundtable on June 23rd. We did want to mention that as well.
Well, thank you so much, Josh. That was just such an amazing presentation with some fantastic results. I don't think anyone can dispute that. So thank you so much for sharing all of that.
If you found this video useful, please remember to like, share, and subscribe to our channel.